When the Canon EOS R3 launched in 2021, it didn't arrive as a spec sheet competitor or a flashy experimental body. It arrived with a very clear identity. Canon designed it for professionals who live in fast, unpredictable environments, sports arenas, wildlife tracking, press coverage where timing matters more than anything else. The experience of using it reflected that intention immediately. It felt solid, responsive, and built around instinct rather than menus and settings. In many ways, it carried forward the spirit of Canon's 1D series cameras into a mirrorless era. Now, attention naturally shifts toward what comes next, the Canon R3 Mark II. Talk of the Canon R3 Mark II is not rooted in official confirmation but in timing and industry momentum. The original R3 has already spent several years in active professional use, which in camera product cycles often signals that development of a successor is either underway or being seriously considered. During this period, the entire imaging landscape has changed rapidly. Sensor technology has advanced, autofocus systems have become more intelligent, and competitors have pushed hard into areas like stacked sensors and computational imaging. Sony has refined speed and tracking across its lineup, Nikon has strengthened consistency and dynamic range performance, and Canon itself has expanded its ecosystem with clearer segmentation between flagship and performance-focused models. Against that backdrop, the Canon R3 Mark II feels less like speculation and more like an expected evolution. The biggest challenge for the Canon R3 Mark II is defining its role within Canon's increasingly structured lineup. With the EOS R1 sitting at the top as a true flagship, Canon must carefully position the R3 Mark II so it doesn't overlap too heavily above or below. It cannot be a smaller R1, and it also cannot remain so close to the original R3 that it feels like a minor refresh. Its identity must stay focused on speed, reliability, and action performance. That clarity is what originally made the R3 relevant, and it is what will determine whether its successor feels necessary in a much more competitive market. Sensor design sits at the core of this conversation. The EOS R3 used a 24-megapixel stacked CMOS sensor, and that choice defined its entire purpose. It was never about resolution leadership, it was about readout speed, motion accuracy, and eliminating rolling shutter issues in fast-moving scenes. For the Canon R3 Mark II, most expectations suggest that Canon will continue this philosophy rather than abandon it. Instead of chasing very high megapixel counts, the focus is likely to remain on faster sensor response, improved dynamic behavior, and better performance under artificial lighting conditions where flicker and distortion often become visible. There is growing discussion about whether Canon could push sensor technology closer to global shutter-like behavior or introduce a more advanced stacked architecture with improved readout control. Even partial progress in this direction would be meaningful. In real-world sports and wildlife photography, issues like LED banding, rolling distortion, and uneven exposure during rapid motion can directly affect usable output. Reducing those limitations would immediately increase confidence in the system for professional assignments where conditions are unpredictable and cannot be repeated. Processing power will be another major area of refinement. The current generation of Canon's imaging processors is capable, but it is built on an architecture that has evolved gradually over time. The Canon R3 Mark II would benefit from a more modern processing system capable of handling faster autofocus decisions, improved noise reduction at high ISO values, and more intelligent scene analysis. These improvements are especially important in environments where subjects move quickly and backgrounds are complex. In those situations, the difference between a good frame and a missed moment often comes down to milliseconds of processing speed. Autofocus is expected to evolve further as well. The original R3 already introduced highly advanced subject tracking and Canon's distinctive eye-controlled autofocus system, which allowed photographers to select focus points simply by looking at their subject. In the Canon R3 Mark II, this system is likely to become more refined and context-aware. Instead of acting purely as a directional tool, it could be combined with stronger AI-based subject prioritization, helping the camera better understand what matters most in a scene with multiple moving elements. This would make tracking in chaotic environments more stable and intuitive. The viewing experience also plays a major role in professional usability. The electronic viewfinder in a camera like this is not just a display, it is the primary interface between photographer and subject. A higher resolution OLED EVF with reduced latency and smoother refresh behavior would make a noticeable difference during long shooting sessions. It would improve clarity when following fast action and reduce fatigue during extended assignments. These refinements often go unnoticed in specifications but are highly valued in real-world use. Video capabilities, while not the core identity of the R3 series, are now part of the baseline expectation for professional cameras. The Canon R3 Mark II is likely to improve internal recording options, offering more stable codecs, better thermal management, and more reliable long-duration recording. However, it is unlikely to shift towards cinema-level complexity. Instead, the focus will remain on dependable hybrid performance good enough for professional delivery without compromising the stills-first philosophy that defines the series. Ultimately, the Canon R3 Mark II is shaping up as a continuation rather than a reinvention. Its success will depend on how well it preserves the identity of the R3 while adapting to a rapidly advancing technological environment. It does not need to redefine everything, it needs to reinforce what already works and refine what limits professionals in the field. Until official information arrives, it remains one of the most important and closely watched possibilities in Canon's professional lineup, not because of hype alone, but because of the role it is expected to fill.